All right. At this point, I think we'll start. So we're starting at 6:06. Again, this is the first meeting of the second iteration of our communication committee. This is the fall 2022 meeting. The prior committee said that it could be a good idea to have, quarterly meetings. So this is the first in that string of meetings. So here's the agenda that I pulled together for tonight. Um, so we'll start with an introduction, just essentially kind of running through how we got to this iteration of the communication committee. Housekeeping just deals with items like talking about, having a chair and a minute taker. The main body of this will be the presentation on the website and the mobile app. Just giving you guys some information. We can obviously discuss as much as we want. What we like about the website, what we don't, so on. And then before we leave, just kind of talking about, this topic of the website came from the old committee. They said that would be a good place to start. Rather than me just setting all the topics, I'd be interested in hearing from you guys to make sure that we are getting topics that are engaging that people care about. Because what I think might be important might be different than what you guys think is important. And then just maybe not necessarily getting firm meeting dates, but just kind of a rough idea, like, oh, we'd love to meet next, and the middle of January, and then maybe April, and then June or July. So an introduction. Um, Based on my notes, this all started before I officially came on board for the district. But based on everything that I've seen, sometime in 2018, we had a survey that we sent out to families around communication, and other stakeholders, just to kind of gather how we were doing. Based on what I've heard, there were some people that were saying that communication could be greatly improved. So obviously, we wanted to gather data. And then in 2019, we had a committee that came together. It was over 22 people. If you look at the first iteration of the communication plan, we had, I think it was 22. And I think there was obviously some fluctuation in those numbers. But so we had a 20 plus person committee that came together. They pulled together the first iteration of the communication plan. That plan was approved on June 3rd, 2019 by the school board. That was actually my first school board meeting as the secretary for the school board. So it was like I came in, they gave me the plan, they told me, where to go. So we went there. By the time we got to the summer of 2021, we realized that some things were completed, some things maybe needed to be revamped on, things that we had done. So we looked at the plan and we revamped it. We added in a lot of new language. We did a new survey, and we tried to compare it to the old survey so that we could see, like, okay, how much better have we, gotten over the past couple of years. And that was ultimately approved by the school board again. That exists on the website for people to see. And then over that time period, we saw that membership was greatly declining. That 22 member committee ended up really kind of falling down to maybe about 4 or 5 core people, and it was really hard to just get people all in the same place. The people that were there seemed more or less satisfied with, the original issues that they came to the committee with. So it was a little bit harder to get that like stakeholder input from them. So the decision was made during the last meeting, which was on May 25th, to say, hey, maybe we should try to get new membership, new ideas, try to change the format a little bit, make it a little bit more public facing, and go from there. So obviously you guys have all volunteered on the committee. We have in total 9 seats on the committee. 8 of them are currently filled. We're still looking for a JGS staff representative if anybody would like to volunteer for that. But we tried to have staff representation, parent representation from both towns. We have an obviously myself, we have an SAU administrator, that being Jen Horn, director of student services, as kind of somebody who is in all buildings and like maybe engages with different people. And then beyond the committee, the idea was to really open these meetings up to the public. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody at this time, either on live stream or here. Hopefully we can grow that as we continue to talk. But we just wanted to make sure that things were more public facing. We've done a lot of efforts toward recording meetings and putting them on our YouTube page so that if people can't make it, they still can have that experience. and you know, still hear the presentation and maybe ask questions post there. So that's kind of where we're at today. Just a few housekeeping items. Because we don't have most of our members here. I mean, we have the majority, but we're still missing some people. I don't know if it's necessarily the right time to pick a chair, just because not everybody's here to kind of weigh in, you know, so something to think about for next time. I'd love to have somebody take minutes. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer. I don't know if anybody would have that interest, but we do need to generate minutes just based on the type of committee that this is. So it is a requirement. So I don't know if anybody. Okay. So we can say that Heather's officially our minute taker. And again, just a difference in the committee membership versus the general public. You guys have full ability to talk whenever you'd like to ask questions. We have a couple sections that we'll have set aside for just general members of the public, and they can weigh in there. I guess just for the sake of introductions, I'd like to, before we get into the actual meeting, just introduce everybody. I know that nobody can see me on the camera because I'm in a different section because I have all my live streaming equipment, but the voice is Nicholas Handy. I'm the communications coordinator and the school board secretary for the district. And I don't know if you guys just want to go, you know, maybe start with Daisy and wrap around.
Sure. My name's Daisy Hawk. I am a member of the school board, and I'm also a JGS parent.
My name's Dee Wilson. I am a parent of 2 CHS students who went through RMS and live in Ringe.
I am Heather Dean. I'm a second grade teacher over at Ringe, and I'm also one of the district mentor coordinators for our new hires.
And I'm Shauna Babineau. I have 2 students at Ringe Memorial, and I'm a parent.
I guess since we're all saying parents, I'm also a parent of a Jaffrey grade school student. So we have parents in both in all the schools, hopefully. All right, so we'll move on. This is pretty heavily text-based in terms of the presentation that I have. Obviously, if we want to delve into the actual website, if you guys want to point out, hey, I don't really like this section, what can we do? I really like how this works. We can obviously pull up the website and look from there. But I just wanted to kind of give some of the background, some of the identified strengths and weaknesses, some of the steps forward that we'd like to take. So just in looking at a little bit of history behind our website process, the website prior to the one that we have right now went live on May 9th, 2017. A lot of people had said that that was a great update over the past website. But as time went on, and when I was having meetings when I first got here in 2019, a lot of people were saying, like, can you work on the website? I'm having a really hard time finding things. It's not very clear. It's not very well organized. So it was identified to me, well, it wasn't necessarily in the communication plan as something that people were really wanting changes for. So we went through a whole process. We reached out to a bunch of different companies that create websites for school districts. After a process, we ended up choosing the company School Messenger. They were not only, you know, one of the top choices in terms of what they could offer us, but we already utilize School Messenger for our all-call system. And that system, we can have future meetings or even talk about this more later, but that system, even in its base package and what we had before the website, we're not utilizing to its fullest extent. We're kind of using it just for one purpose right now. And down the line, there's a whole plan to completely add to that system, and it works with the website and other purposes. So then our new website went live on September 7th, 2022. It did take a while to get the actual website up and running and to get, you know, maybe more stakeholder input than we like, just because unfortunately, due to the timing, there was a lot of COVID stuff that went on. People were really preoccupied with a lot of different things other than, you know, what they wanted on the website. So in terms of why we wanted the new website, the benefits of what we have right now, we split up all the, we actually have multiple websites. We have you know, each of the schools, and then we have the overall district website. A lot of people really complained about this idea that we had a section on the other website where you could click on essentially a page for the website for the different schools, and you didn't have any ability to really customize that. Any important information was essentially put in buttons at the bottom of the page, which, you know, there's a lot of really important information for each school. And then there were a lot of things that were like in a general parents tab, but they maybe only applied to one school and not the others, because obviously, elementary has some things that function differently than middle high. Obviously, like I said, we link into School Messenger already in that infrastructure, and we've already, built a little bit more than we have, and we can go even further. We didn't really have a lot of ability when it came to drop-down menus. It was you could create the menus on the top of the website, and then you could have one drop-down and you couldn't have anything further. And there was no capability to do that whatsoever. We were using Squarespace prior to this, and Squarespace really isn't designed for what we needed. It's more for, like businesses and things like that. So there were a lot of great features that they had, but they didn't really fit with what we needed. I personally think it looks a lot cleaner. Everything looks similar, things are color coded, branded. We have a lot more customization options. I got fed up with Squarespace when I first got here because there were very simple things. And I was like, can we do this? And they're like, no. It's like, well, can you find a way to make it work for us? And they're like, no, it's kind of, you got what you got. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then on the back end, me working on the website, it's very easy to put things in place. Things like news posts I can get up in a couple minutes. I can create new pages, I can move pages, I can archive pages so that if there's something that's maybe not relevant that could be, used in the future, rather than completely deleting that, I can just kind of hold it in a holding tank. And then if we need it again, we can bring it back. We've been utilizing more of this idea of pop-up messages, like for our recent special meeting for the school board, that pops up. Those can be targeted to different, websites. So say if RMS has to be closed, but the other schools don't, we can just put it on like the main website and the RMS website. So there's the ability to go really granular there. And then we do have a mobile app. I know it hasn't been advertised as much as we probably should, but there's a complete and total integration with that platform. And it's all included again in the school messenger space. Just a few more things. Like I said, greater control over news stories. We actually have like a complete and total system for those, quick hits. Like if you go to the news section, I can, if I want to set something to appear on the website in 5 days, I can put it ahead when I have time rather than having to wait until the minute of to put it up. We've talked a lot in the communication end about branding standards, making sure things are color coded, working on logos. JGS has a new logo. We're in discussions about getting something new for RMS. The middle high school had a new logo. And then obviously, like we might talk in the future also about the district. There was a lot of talk about the live calendar and how it wasn't working on the old website, that people wanted more of a one-stop shop. We have a very easy infrastructure in which we have each school controlling their own Google Calendar, and that automatically just transports to the individual school website and to the overall district website. And then the district stuff feeds through everything. So we're still working through some processes and getting people to make sure that all the information is uploaded and done in an efficient way, but it's a very easy infrastructure where many people are familiar with Google Calendar, so we can work with the secretaries and clerical folks at each school to say, okay, like you already have training in the system, here's how you can, get it over there, because it's just an automatic within like, I think it's every 10 to 15 minutes. They just check the calendars and anything new just gets uploaded. A lot more active support for issues. We can call via phone. We have a live chat. Very easy. Anytime I've had an issue, I've gotten a hold of somebody almost immediately. Whereas Squarespace, there were times where the website would go down and I couldn't hear from anybody. It is a company that works specifically with school districts, so the websites are more tailored for that purpose. And then, as I said, we have a lot of growth opportunities in the future. Those future improvements include we're working on a searchable, expandable directory with photos and more information so that they can be a little bit more interactive. People can get the information that they need. Currently, what we have on the website is just a Google sheet, that I have to update myself. We're going to do a staff intranet down the line. So on the main website, there's that staff section, and we don't put everything that we probably could or want to put on there because some of the stuff shouldn't be public facing. It'll create a whole section on the website for staff so that they can find all that stuff very easily. When I say selective staff training for greater uploading and management capabilities. So currently I am the only person who is making changes to our website. The goal down the line is that I can give, say, the middle, high school counseling department, one person in that department, I can give them control over that page and any pages linked into it. They would then have they would get training through School Messenger. We have modules and things like that they can access. They would get that capability to make whatever changes they want so that that can be live updated. Then I'd receive an email saying that the change has been submitted. I would look it over before it went live, and then it would, go out. And if there's any sort of, say we made a mistake, or, we changed something and we lost a bunch of stuff we wanted, they log every change that's made, and you can pull from, oh, we really liked how it was 2 years ago. I have that in a spot where I can just say, bring that back. And then it's right the way it was before. Part of the reason why we wanted to talk about the website as one of the first things is because we acknowledge that we have made a lot of progress and that we've moved forward, but a lot of people have at least alluded to issues. I don't necessarily have people coming directly to me, but I see a lot on social media. I've heard people talk about there's like some issues with navigation or not being able to find things. Some of the things that I've been able to gather, through just paying attention is a lot of people have talked about this idea that it's harder to navigate on a mobile device just because it gets squished. You get more like hamburger menus at the top, and you have to navigate differently than you would on a desktop. I've been told more generically that some things are hard to find. I haven't been told specifically. I really have a hard time anytime I'm looking for X. So I'd love to, if you guys know of any of these things that are harder to find, let me know so that we can work on finding better places for them. As I said, unfortunately, when people have issues, they don't generally reach out. It's more like oh, I'm really upset with this, I'm going to complain in like a parents group on Facebook. And then I only see that because I have access to those groups, but I'd love to create, I guess, a better communication system in which people know that they can talk to me to make those changes. That's why my email's right on the, front page of every website to let people know. And then some things like the directory have taken a step back, or not been implemented the way that they need to be or they should be, because a lot of it really hinges on this idea of something called a staff system of record. So in the business office, we obviously have demographic and other information of staff members, but it's collected in a way that's best benefited to suit the business office needs, for things like payroll and contacting and things like that. It doesn't translate as easily to what we could use it for communications wise. If we were to have it set up in the appropriate way, and we're looking currently at like what softwares we have in-house or what we could reach out to get this capability. If it's set up in a way that we could easily translate it to the website, we could give login information for staff members so they could have access to that intranet. Then I could be able to give people that level of control that I talked about with making more changes, because then I'm not the only one having to update. You can have people that are like, oh, hey, I want to take a couple hours to revamp my, the library page or something. So we're hoping to get that in place within the next year, the system of record, and then obviously we can go from there in terms of getting things in place. Also, again, if we wanted to talk communication tonight or another night, it would allow us to have a more granular level of control in having administration reach out to parents, staff, etc. If we got it organized in the right way, a principal at a school could reach out to just third grade parents and staff members. The director of student services could reach out just to instructional associates at JGS. So it just gives that really pared down ability. We already have a lot of that information on the, parent side. We don't have it in the same way on the staff side. So greater integration and greater communication. So that was kind of the spiel. Like I said, I know it was really wordy. I know that it was a lot of like information. I wanted to take an opportunity to give you guys a chance to voice things that are good, things that are bad, things that could be changed, things that you've heard from other people. So I guess I turn it now over to you guys to, talk to me about that.
Well, I don't need to say my name first, do I again?
No, you
Okay, I'm sorry. I definitely think there's been a ton of improvement, which is why there was such a drop off. Because when the communication committee was started, there was no communication pretty much at all, and the website was atrocious. So I definitely think you've done a fantastic job. For me using the website and the mobile app, I have not come across any major issues. Anytime I've seen people post something on Facebook, it's either been user error or something that doesn't exist in a sense. Like people were looking for gear for Conant High School gear, which technically at the time they weren't running the thing that they usually buy it from, but you could get it through the athletic app, but it wasn't like something we got money for, so.
Obviously, speaking to that example, we now have the 24/7 CHS
Right.
store. They're working on the middle school level. I've had some conversations with RMS administration, and it's something they'd like to do conceptually after they decide if they want a new logo. I haven't had as many conversations with JGS, but I'm sure they'll happen. I know that the parents groups will sometimes offer periods where it's like, okay, you can get a shirt or a sweatshirt in these couple of colors.
Yep.
So I think part of the issue with that is that we didn't really have great logos to use in certain aspects. Like I inherited a lot of logos that were very small in file size. And we've since been able to work with, we've been working with Bulldog. They were able to give us the originals, so we can use that at, different levels. Then obviously as we create new logos, we can keep that information. But the more branding things we have to use, the more we can start working on those.
I know for myself personally, speaking as a staff member, it's been, I find it easy. It's easier to access things. I appreciate the way that it looks. It's a lot better, appeasing to the eyes. I haven't heard of anything negative in regards to not in staff not being able to find and locate things. And if I have, it's more so for new staff to our district and just needing to know the navigation aspect of that, which I think is common when you're new to a district. So most of what I've heard I would say is positive.
Okay.
Most of the things that I have heard definitely goes to the user error category. The very beginning of the year, and I heard it a bunch last year, was I can't find the lunch menus. But I pulled it up right now. It's top links, important links, food services, and you click it and it pops up the menus. And that hasn't moved from last year. It was the same way last year. But that was a constant thing that I was hearing. I can't get the menu. It's the first of the month and I don't know what my kid's gonna have for lunch. It's right there.
Like I said, from personal experience, and if there is issues with stuff, like maybe the issue is not necessarily that things are not on the right spot in the website. Maybe it's just that we need to do a better job of communicating where things are, and maybe have periodic times on social media or whatnot where we say, oh, hey, like you want this information, here's where you find it. I mean, one of the things that I was speaking to, like I said, is the idea of it lays out better on like a tablet, on a computer screen. But one of the things that I have noticed, and I don't know how to necessarily fix this, is when you switch it down to more of a mobile application. This is more of what you're going to see on your phone. And it makes it a little bit more convoluted because you have to come down here to get everything, and everything's a further drop down menu. And then everything just gets pushed to the bottom. So like those lunch menus, instead of being kind of right there on your screen, they're further down. Your important events are further down, and everything just kind of squishes down because that's just how things are mobile friendly these days. And then the one thing that I'm hoping to fix, and I haven't figured out how to do it, is you can easily navigate from website to website, but it's hit up here in this more options section. And it's just it's that extra step of hiding something that I don't necessarily like. I just don't know if we have that ability to change it. But here you have it just right here. We're always trying to add things like, for example, languages. I was notified that I think this is done through Google Translate. There were some languages that were in there that are spoken more in our community that were not on that list. So we were able to add those to the website to be more friendly. We added in the athletic calendar just because it's a separate website that I don't run. So it's trying to pull in that information in a more accessible way.
So I'll be honest, I didn't know that there was a mobile app option.
Mhm.
So as a parent, that may have been something that I missed in communication. I think I have too many apps as it is, but to know that there is an app out there that is gonna be more user friendly than trying to pull up a website on your phone. That could be something that maybe could go out in, I know, the family newsletters and
Yeah.
things like that, like,
Yep.
hey, or even on social media. Don't use our website, use our mobile app. And from my personal experience, I know if things are too wordy and there's too much to read, people won't read it. So is there a way in the site where you can click on like more icon based instead of drop down menus? So if you have a logo for RMS and you have a logo for JGS, and so if they can click that to get into those specific websites instead of trying to search through drop down menus and scrolling and.
So I think that's where the app, like pushing the app comes in handy, because the app is set up a
More
lot
like
of
that.
like icons that you just, food services, just a
Right,
picture of
so-
a hamburger, so it's easy to.
I would
like, to
imagine
navigate.
now that I know that that's there and I can download it when I have Wi-Fi to go and try it. But I mean, icons, things that are really simple for people,
Definitely.
make it so much easier.
And I completely 110% agree with that. You know, when we first had the app, we sent it out, and I think a couple emails. I think I put up a couple posts on social media, but there wasn't that regular. Hey, use this. I mean, what I'm trying to look for in my email right now, because I'm not using my regular computer. I have a different one for live streaming. I should be able to pull up the interface so that you can at least see what it looks like.
Do you get statistics back on how many hits are touching the websites versus mobile app usage?
Yes. So through our website, it's all Google Analytics. So I just attach that to the website profile, and the mobile app has its own interface. And I do have a little bit of data on the app. And that, we've had over 300 downloads since we've had it, which obviously it's 300 people. It's not insignificant, but when you're talking about how many staff members we have, how many parents we have, how many, even students, maybe middle high school kids, that can increase a lot more.
Yeah.
So I just want to try to see if I can find it.
I do know when you're looking at the website on your mobile device, it's not easy to find the search, which oftentimes I find a lot of people, when they don't know what to do, they just go search and put in what they're looking for. If there is a way to make it so it's not that more options to get to the search bar on the condensed mobile version, not the app, but like the actual website, that would make it a lot easier, I think.
I would also say that something I have to do is actually reach out to School Messenger specifically, because our search function doesn't seem to be pulling in everything that it should. There are some times where people,
Yep.
I mean, there's some stuff I don't know if we can do. Like, people have asked, like, if I search something, is it not only going to search the website, but will it search like a PDF link on the website, go into that and search words in there? And I don't know if that's possible. But there are some times where, like, I'll search for something that should be there and it just doesn't come up. So
Yeah, I know even on the app, like I searched to see when graduation week was proposed for this year, and when you go into the calendar on the app and hit search and type in graduation, nothing comes up, but if you go to June, you have the proposed graduation dates.
Mhm.
So there's certain things that search is definitely not pulling in, but I don't know, I think that's probably an error with the program itself.
So the other thing that's good about and just to talk about the app, it's got brought up and I'm working on pulling it up. The other thing that's good about the app is it's really easy to make changes on the actual app itself for me. And it's immediate once I make the change. And so once you first log in, so this is kind of simulating a phone on the right hand side. So you just search the App Store or the Google Play Store for, I think it's JRCSD app. And then it's got a little emblem, that's the JR logo. You'll download it, you'll get this, you can start your setup. It's gonna ask you what schools you want to subscribe to. Obviously, everybody gets the district, but if you have a kid in JGS and you don't care about hearing stuff about RMS, you can just click it off. Or if say you have a kid at RMS, but then they go into the middle high school, there is a setting that you can go into and you can stop seeing RMS stuff and only see the middle high school stuff. So I'll just click them all just for the sake of clicking. It says thank you, so I'm gonna start my app. So speaking to that point about the updates coming frequently and easily, I can actually probably remove that, the COVID resources, or at least change it to something else. So again, another thing, me having more involvement in the app if we're going to be pushing it more. So I'll update that, tomorrow. We do have a new document that has COVID-19 resources for families. The school board approved it at the last meeting. It took our 30-page reopening framework, pared it down to 6 pages, and now it's mostly saying just here's all the COVID-19 resources on the CDC website. If you're having symptoms, here's the link to click on. If you are having to isolate, here are the symptoms or the things to click on. But so you get all these little icons, and they essentially route you to either a website or somewhere on the website. So if you click on food services, it's gonna send you to this link on your phone through the app. So then you'll get I brought it to the generic district spot because then you have all the information there. Your calendar is going to be based on what schools you selected. So if you didn't select the middle high school, you're not going to see any of the middle high school references. One thing I'm also trying to see if I can get changed is this little icon right here displays what school it's for, but it's really small and hard to see. So I'm trying to see if there's anything I can do to improve that. But then you can click in and you have all your information that gets uploaded into the general calendar entry. News, you're going to get all of the news stories that populate on each one. I just uploaded something about lab girls today. So we click into that. You have that we're starting up next week. Here's the information. You can sign up on Family ID. More information. Here's a flyer. You get the flyer right there. So the idea is the general philosophy is to create one spot where you can find all the information that you need, rather than, ooh, I'm really interested in this. Who do I have to call? When is it being held? Is there an entry fee? Does my kid, if they're participating, do they have to show up a certain amount of time early for something? And as you can see here, I have the ability to name them whatever I want to name them. I can put different icons. I can have as many icons as I want.
Nick, is that something right there where you said the icons are too small for schools? Is that something that once all the schools have decided on their logos, you could put the logo instead?
Yeah, I have to check on that. I don't know if we can or not. It would be very nice, in my opinion, if we could do
It'd
that.
be a good visual, because then you talking about what you were saying, Shauna, is visually people could just see it and be like, oh, that's my kid's school logo.
I don't think I can move over, but I can have as many. If you swipe to the left, you get the second level of stuff. So we cut off at school board. So you get a link to our Facebook, our Instagram, our YouTube, to Pickup Patrol, Web to School. Schools is just a thing that gives you really basic information about each school, like the address and I think the phone number. Then you have your staff directory, which again eventually will be more interactive than it is now. So really basic. You just have your icons and emblems. You click on that. It's designed to bring you somewhere on the website, but it gets rid of that spot where you have to try to figure out where it is on the website. It's just, oh, I want these things. And like I said, I can tell which things are being clicked on and which things aren't. So if we have something that's getting no traffic, I can get rid of it, maybe replace it with something else. Yeah, so we went live in October of 2021. It's available on Apple and Google. We have over 300 downloads. As I said, customizable based on whatever interests people have. We can add, move, and rather than having to actually on your phone like update the app to use it, when you log in, it's just going to say something like a change was made, and you just press OK, and it just makes the change live. So you don't have to like continually be uploading and updating a new app. We can have as many pages or buttons as we want. If we want to put, 7 pages and 9 buttons, we're good to go. You can, and as I said, you can subscribe to your own schools, and it functions as a resource to direct people to the website. The goal is to increase the users and the downloads to make sure that we're actually leveraging the resource that we have. A lot of that's on me, and perhaps, newsletters, communication out to say, hey, do you know we have this resource?
Does the app do push notifications automatically when you download it?
We don't have it enabled right now, but eventually down the line, we could use it for push notifications for things like snow days.
Okay. That's
So
cool.
eventually we could have that compatibility where it's just that, snow day, school closed, anything that's super important. It's just not something that we have enabled at this time. There is eventually down the line going to be a second app that we're going to try to work on. It's going to have to wait until we have this staff system of record and some of the other things in place, but it would function similar to Remind, which I think, does RMS still use Remind?
Some
good.
teachers, like I use Remind, but some other teachers use Class Tag or
Okay.
Class Dojo, but there's some different varieties.
So essentially what this would do is it would just kind of, the second app would standardize it across the district. We'd have the one app that we use. It would use the system of information we have on the back end to be able to, again, have those breakdowns and communication. It would have the two-way back and forth. You'd be able to upload documents and things like that. So it could have applications in the classroom. It could have applications for clubs and sports. It could have applications for any number of things. It's just one of those kind of down the line. We have to get there's been a lot of work in communication and other just general SAUs and even in schools to look at that foundational level and to make sure that we have it right at step 1 so that we can go all the way through correctly. There have been some instances where like maybe that foundational level information gathering or something wasn't as strong as it could have been, and it made all the other steps that much harder. So we're waiting on getting a lot of these systems on the back end in place so that we can just build everything appropriately instead of, we could make it go live now if we wanted to. It wouldn't be efficient. It wouldn't work well. It would really sour people's desire to use it before we even, really got it off.
Do you know, Nick, if that app, because I know one of the issues that those of us that use Remind, it shuts you off at a max amount of characters.
I
It's
would
so
have to
frustrating
look
because
into that.
I have to like send messages to
Multiple.
parents in multiple forms sometimes.
See, and as a parent, I prefer Remind over Class Tag because Class Tag has all of those advertisements that pop up
Oh.
all the time.
Okay,
And
I didn't know that.
I find it highly annoying
Yeah,
because it's like, it's almost like it, because you're not using a paid version of the app, it's the free version. So it's almost like
Oh.
when you're watching YouTube videos and you have to watch the advertisements before you get to the notices.
yeah, and Remind's not like that.
No, and I
Yeah.
like Remind,
Yeah,
but.
And I don't think we
not
should have any of
everybody uses
those issues with this app. I mean, I haven't done the deep dive to look into things like max character
that's the
counts on
only thing
things,
I've
but
heard people complain about as
Yeah.
teachers too. Like
Okay.
I get shut off at such, so many characters that I've got to do another one.
yeah, you feel like you have to really,
I could try to
Shrink it
condense it. I'm
down.
like, it's still not gonna work. I still have to send another message.
but yeah, that's something we can look into as we progress. Obviously, like even though it's a school messenger platform and it makes sense to have everything in the same, suite, more or less. If we get to that point and it doesn't feel like the right tool and there's something else that makes more sense, obviously that would be a discussion. We don't want to ever just like use something just because. We want to make sure that it's going to function and work well the way that we need it to. So that would probably be at least, a couple of years out based on the progress that we made on other things.
I definitely think it's something, if you're gonna do something like that, putting it out as like a beta where it's just staff first. Or even just a handful of clubs versus to the whole district, because I think when the app first went out, there really wasn't a ton of stuff on it, so people didn't use it. Because it was like, oh, look, we have this app, but it doesn't have much on it, and so then people just forget about it. Whereas if it's something and it's been tested and is gonna be used quite a bit, then people aren't gonna forget about it.
Um. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the main point of what I wanted to, present at this point, with it being a new committee, I didn't necessarily know what you guys wanted from me. I felt like giving that perspective on where we got to where we were, what the strengths are, at least from what we've heard, the weaknesses, what we're working on would be good. At this point, I'd love to, talk about as much as you guys want to talk about or not, if you guys are feeling satisfied.
I personally would be really curious, especially in my building, how many staff know about the app?
Mhm.
Because I personally didn't know that it went live in October 2021. And I know that I put a lot of things in my newsletters, and I bet a lot of my parents, as I've heard from parents, either on Remind or on my calendars, because I do a monthly calendar plus a monthly newsletter.
Yeah,
So
and
I just really-
I don't have like a staff versus parent breakdown.
Yeah,
Based on the metrics that I do have, the usage seems pretty equal across the schools. It's about 75 at each elementary schools and about 150 at the middle high school, which if you cut that school in half,
Right.
you're
Right.
you're looking at about 75 per school. Again, we have a district of 250 staff members, probably somewhere in there, and then you think about, this is a public resource, so grandma, grandpa, aunt, and uncle, whoever could download this. Having only 300 or so people is not a great representation, but it's a start. I mean, I think in general, a goal that I'm hearing and things that I'm hearing from different schools is that we want to just promote the resources that we have better. I've been talking with some people about how can we make sure that people know that the newsletter comes out from each school, and like when to roughly expect that and where to find it. And I had a period where I put up on social media like, oh hey, like all the newsletters have been updated, or this one's been updated, and I stopped doing it because I also have like Facebook and social media metrics, and they were just starting to really drop. But maybe it's something that at the beginning of each school year, we just remind people and say, oh, hey, like, did you know we have these newsletters? Did you know that we have this mobile app? We could survey people on the app to say, hey, here's what we have right now. What would you like to see on it that's not there right now? With the understanding that it's largely a click on an icon, go to a place on the website type of app. We're not going to be able to do anything like super interactive, but it's at least designed to get rid of some of that, intimate searching through each website to find what you want.
I definitely think promoting it at the beginning of each year is good, because you never know how many new families you have in the district too. But also at least once in the middle of the year, once parents have finally gotten their head in their right headspace from the beginning of school and teachers. Because oftentimes everything that gets thrown at parents at the beginning of school gets forgotten.
I would almost make it a post winter break reminder, because you're past at the beginning of the school year. I think just now, right, we're starting to get settled into that routine and things, and then the holidays are going to be here, and then you get that long break. So when you come back, it's a new year, it's a new reminder that check the app. Said,
Yeah.
I didn't know about it till today.
If you don't remember what your kids' school lunches are, feel free to check the app before
Yeah.
you go back to school.
Exactly.
Well, I think that speaking to issues like that, where you have this very pointed idea where you're able to continue to diversify the message, where you're saying, maybe first month of the school year, we say, oh, hey, reminder, did you know that we have this app where you can find, all these good links and bits of information? And then, a month or two in, oh, hey, having a hard, want to know what your kids are eating for lunch? Not only can you find it on the website, but you can find it here. Just having it be more intentional, like in all the messaging, like, oh, hey, did you know we have an app? I think putting it in the newsletter is a good idea. Just because, that is another resource that people, search. and it's something that's delivered straight to them. You know, anytime that emails come out from the superintendent's office, you know, things to just tack in. So I think there's a number of places that we can put it to be more consistent. And I had that thought before I even came here. So I'm glad that it's being echoed. Do we have any other thoughts, ideas about the website or the app or anything we want to discuss that's on your minds that's communication related, not on the agenda?
Kind of.
Yeah.
So beginning of the school year, thankfully it's now all online and no longer this packet on the first day of school. But you fill out all the forms or update the forms, and it has a spot for, like, my form, for instance, has my information and my husband's information. And I make sure that it's got both of our emails. He receives everything from the superintendent, but doesn't receive individual school newsletters, doesn't receive individual teacher letters. I have to message them, can you add his name and his email to your lists every year?
So that's partially not having, I don't want to say it's not that we don't have the right system, it's just that it's all through Web to School right now. And when administrators want to reach out, they have the ability to select like primary, secondary, I think. I don't know the exact terminology. But I think some schools don't always push those additional levels, because when you go into Web to School, you might have some issues where like the secondary guardian is like a do not contact person. So a lot of that's unfortunately just how it's organized in the back end. We are having discussions right now about Alma, I believe, is what's taking it over. So hopefully that will improve that system. The other piece of it would be pulling it out of that collection system of the student/family system of record and moving it all into School Messenger, which is that big conversion thought that I'm having of like making sure that we have all the information we need for families, and then making sure we have all the information we need for staff, creating some sort of spreadsheet or something that downloads it into School Messenger actively, because they said that if we set it up in a certain way, it would every single day update. And putting that in place so that when you have all that information categorized, like I said, then you get that more granular level. You can, hopefully set up permissions where it's like, okay, like I want to contact everybody in the system. This person's not even in the system because we're not supposed to be contacting them from a communication perspective. So you'd instantly just say, here's all the people that should be contacted that are parents at JGS, or like I said, if you wanted to go down to an individual grade level. So that's in the works. It's probably at least a year out.
Okay.
But once we get it into place, that should make it a little bit easier. But like I said, I think it's more of a philosophy thing, and that the way the system's set up now, there's some worry that you could be reaching out to people who might not need to or should be. So I can definitely talk with all the administrators that email and just make sure that we're consistently on the same page, or maybe if there's some sort of switch or fix that we can do now so that we can make sure that that's more readily available. Because prior to that, where we were using Web to School, we were just creating a Google list, like in the SAU, well, not, I say SAU is in like the IT office, they would create it, but we were having a hard time updating information because it was only whenever they uploaded it. There was no automatic transfer. So again, it's that whole idea of we've taken a step, but we're not where we need to be. So
I will say too, on that note, Daisy, as classroom teachers, every year we have to go in and I wait for the list to be updated because I have to go physically child by child and Web to School, copy every parent's email and put them into a Google contact list so that doesn't happen, because I've had parents will say, I didn't get it. And I'm like, is your emailing web to school? Because if it's not web to school unless they give it to us, and so it's like, as soon as you said that, I'm like, yep, that's the part that like that connection piece, it's like one extra step that we have to go through that I wish the system just did, but it doesn't do. So like you said, long term.
And
Well-
it's always just been a very simple, like the first week of school, because we're at JGS, so Susan will send out the JGS notes and we'll be eating dinner and I'm like, oh, did you see such and such? And he's like, no. Okay, Susan, can you please add my husband to your newsletters? And then the teacher will send out a thing and I'm like, oh, did you see the teacher said, no.
That's what I just said, forward.
That's what I do in my district for my children go. And
Forward.
we just adopted Alma this year. And so it's been interesting because now I get it, but now I get my email plus my husband's email, and then he gets mine plus his. So it's like working out those quirks.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that we have steps to make it better. We know what we have to do. It's just anytime you're bringing in these new systems, you have to just make sure it works for all the different components. Obviously, Alma's more about than just what I, from a communications perspective, want it for. There's a lot of other applications for families, but we'll try to see what we can do in a more immediate sense to get that better.
Cause I can't imagine I'm the only parent.
Oh,
that has
absolutely.
that
No, I
problem.
Well, the other thing that, I mean, I guess just because we're speaking about this topic, the one thing that will be nice for people like me is usually when we have a system where we're trying to send out an email, obviously I'm more involved with the superintendent's emails because I work directly in his office. He's my direct supervisor. But I'm trying to set up more times to talk with all the other administrators, at least the principals for now, to make sure that I'm meeting at least monthly to see how things are going and how we can help each other. But the system will eventually be put in place where everybody's kind of working in the same communication system. You don't have like, like if we email staff members right now, that's done through Gmail. And then we're emailing parents through like Web to School. And again, once we can get it all just housed in the same spot, we can have all the administrators reach out the same way. So it's unified. And also they would have the ability to do additional things that they wouldn't have to reach out to me directly for. So say we have an emergency. I'm thinking, snow days, because those are always fun for me because it's like Ruben does the all call, but I put it on Facebook, I put it on Instagram. I have to reach out to all the websites, radio stations, things like that. Which we'd still have to do the radio station and all that stuff, but we could build in a system in which an administrator would say, I want to send this not only through email, but I want to send it via text message. And you could opt into that system. I want to send it to Facebook. I want to send it to Instagram. I want it to go on the website. So if there is a true emergency, we're not reliant on 2 to 3 to 4 people coordinating. Oh, we have this message. We need to get it out in all these spots. You never want there to be an emergency or anything like that, but sometimes they do happen. And the quicker we can get the information out there, the more informed people can be. So that'll be another.
So I'm sure it's a Verizon thing, not a school district thing, but it is comically amazing that the robocalls come through as potential spam on a Verizon phone.
They
Yeah,
come on
that-
US
that-
Cellular as well. It's
That is
potential
a
spam.
Verizon thing. I get calls at work from my coworkers and it will say potential spam on my cell phone.
I purposefully didn't save the number into my phone because I know who it is every time because it shows the phone number. And so I'm seeing the 532 and I instantly know it's a Jaffrey number, but then it says potential spam and I'm like, oh, this is a robocall.
I think it's anytime it's a robocall because I get it, even with US Cellular, I get that with the robocalls from the school as well as from my mom's nursing home. Cause it's like a robocall and it comes up
Does
as
it come from an
potential spam.
800 number? Cause I think that's what I had heard before is that Verizon will have 800, 888 or 866. I think that area code
It should be the
sh-
school's number. or
I
the
would say it
district's
shows
number.
up
Should be
as a
532
Jaffrey
8122.
number.
Yeah,
But
but
it
I'm
just has
curious if the
potential spam.
system that it comes from is.
I think part of it might be that even though it's coming from the district's number, we're not doing it through the phone system. Well, we are, but we aren't. So the process is that you're logging into School Messenger. And because you have to get all the phone numbers and things that you want to reach out to, then you're pushing a button to have it call you on a phone. So it can either call, your cell phone or the landline of the district. You record the message, it plays back to you, and then you send it out and it sends it out through the School Messenger system. So it still shows up as the phone number because we've told it to do that. But if you get 2,000 of the same message going out to a bunch of different places at the same time, and you have a bunch of people that, we only have so many cell providers, and it's like, oh, like Verizon, we just got 1,000 of the same message from this one thing. Like, what's going on? So it's something we can look into just to make sure that obviously people aren't missing an important message, but I don't know if it's anything we can help with.
It's, like I said, it's comical on my end because I can see the phone number and I instantly know it's the district.
Yeah.
But if you're brand new to the district,
Right, and you
Like,
don't recognize.
we
them,
had the very first day of school, 2 of the Ringe buses were combined. So first day of school, it's like noon and we're getting a phone call. And when I first saw it, I was like, what happened? It's only the first day of school. But if you're brand new and that's your first day in the district, you have no idea what that phone number is. And 90% of the time, if it's not a saved number in my phone, I'm not answering it. I'm sending it to voicemail,
Mhm.
which it leaves a message if you don't answer it. But if you don't know that that's the SAU office calling with an
Urgent
urgent
issue, right.
message, you're not gonna answer it.
Well, that's something, hopefully too, if you do eventually get to the push notifications on the apps or anything, that would also help because it would go out as a push notification.
When we're looking into the push notifications via the app, we're looking into, like I said, some sort of opt-in for text messaging services. Because some people don't want to get the phone call. Like I seldom answer my phone when I get a phone call unless I know directly who it is.
Well,
I'm
and
sure
in
other
this
people
area,
are like that.
sometimes you can't answer the phone because we have no service.
You can get a text, but you can't
The
make a
text
phone
will
call.
come through,
Yeah.
but good luck on the phone call.
So the idea eventually, or my hope would be that you could essentially choose, like, okay, here's the 7 different ways that you can communicate this message to me. I want these 4. Please
Yeah,
don't call me. Please don't send me an email. I want a text message. I want, if I have the app, I want that. And it just, that more people, everybody likes to be communicated to in a certain way. The more we can make it accessible to how people want it, the more people would be able to listen. Like you had said, with like some of the little branding, like having a logo somewhere, making things more simple. Hey. You guys are,
you didn't.
well, Jen,
bring-
you're on
Did
the
you bring the
committee.
popcorn for the rest of us, Jen?
Been sitting on my desk for 2 hours.
So yeah, we just went through the website and whatnot. We're just kind of having communications discussions. Jen, because you are a committee member as well, do you have any comments, criticisms, other things about the website and or mobile app?
Besides stale popcorn.
It's not stale yet. I think that the website is a step up. It's still difficult. I think that we could do some more work on making it more user friendly, more inherent. I don't like things, you have to go, you still have to dig through so many layers and things like this.
Okay. Are there specific examples or areas that you could point to, or is it more just a generalized feeling like you're maybe having too many menus to search through?
So from a work standpoint, finding things like if I need to send the parents to the homeschool paperwork, they have to go to student services to intent to homeschool, and then to one more before they can even click, I have to give them 3 to 4 steps before they can get to, and this is the form then you fill out. There has to be an easier way. Frankly, if I was going to homeschool, I would never look under student services. It's not inherent, it doesn't make sense. So that's an example.
Well, and I think there's a lot of room to grow in those department sections. That was largely brought over as a function of, that was the vast majority of what our website was prior. Like, you think about those main tiles that were, you know, right there, it was like business, facilities, student services, and there like wasn't all, even though they were like main focal points on the website, there usually wasn't a lot of information there. So I think in that case, it might just be having broader conversations with each department about like, how can we revamp this to be more user friendly? Because I do agree that to a point, you're having to go to departments, then you're having to select a department, then you're having to go to a category, and then maybe even a subcategory.
And as a parent, I can never find
Family ID. Okay.
So that'll be my recommendation, is that we find out what are the, if I allowed to speak.
I mean, you're kind of,
You can't talk.
you're kind of an on but not on the committee. You're the. I feel like you function similar to how you would any other school board committee, in that you're a
Advisor, basically.
yeah.
So finding what the heavy clicks are. And getting those into a spot or a location where they're more accessible as opposed to. Like family, that might be, I see that we advertise on Facebook a lot, so I think that. It is accessible to put links there and so forth, but on the website, yeah, it would be. A little more difficult to find. Certain aspects around athletics, we've had people say that that's a difficult thing to. Search for, but to find out, I don't know if we have the analytics on that. But that might be good to find out what are the high. High visited traffic, high traffic areas. And then the other piece is, we have the issue that we're going to continue to contend with once we can figure out if this. We have a lot of information on the website. And we know why that's the case. We have been asked to have a lot of information on the website, especially around business and so forth. While the few people are very excited that we have all the information, there are other individuals who want it's just too much. So how do we find?
Yeah, and I would say. Regarding that, we do have statistics that we can work off of through Google Analytics. I know what pages are receiving the most traffic. I don't think that any of those pages are problematic in their placement, because we're getting the traffic because they are accessible. That's why I'm always more interested to hear specific examples of what people are having a hard time finding. So I think it's great to have that feedback on like Family ID and some of these other things, because it allows me to think about it. Like, for example, there was a previous example where people are like, wow, I think somebody had asked in a parents group, like, why aren't we posting on social media every single time we have a sporting event? And it's like, well, that's a little bit too much, in my opinion. You know, if you're getting inundated every single day with here's these 2-3 sporting events, or even one post that categorizes them all. So what I did was in the calendar section, added a direct link just to athletics, so that you could go into calendars and you could just immediately, rather than having to click through go to the middle high school, find the athletic section, go to the athletic website, find the calendar. Now we just have a link to that calendar on the website. So now you can just find it and it has all of the events right there. It's separated from the general live calendar, because again, if you start getting too much stuff on there, it just becomes messy and hard to see. But since we have an active live updated calendar on the athletic website, I put that in place. Regarding Family ID, there's a couple different ways we could do it. A lot of the things like pickup patrol and things like that, I just have a direct link under the parents and students tab. So you go to parents and students and you just immediately see, you know.
I think that's part of it. When I go to the SAU website, I wanna be able to find your family ID, and I have to go to a school to then find it.
Yeah, so we have those, I can show you both locations. When it comes to each of the schools, I try to put some of the stuff in here. We have like a web to school direct link, pickup patrol right here, and that just. Yeah, that just sends you straight to where you need to go. So if it's as simple as just adding family ID there, usually I hit it in here just because if I figured if people were looking for clubs and activities, you'd. You know, pop in there and it has a direct link in there, but again, that is that extra step that you have to take to get there. When it comes to the SAU site. It's just in important links. You know, if you're web to school, you have your pickup patrol. Back when we were having people access, what was it, Snap, that was in there. So it's something that could be just put in here. The only reason why I didn't put a parents and students tab on the main website, and I did on all the schools, was I wanted it to feel a little different. I wanted the SAU website to function a little bit differently. And then have all the schools function slightly different, and that, you know, I'm a parent or a student. I'm going to my appropriate school level website. I'm looking at all the resources that are available to me. If you have all the stuff on here, we get back into the comments that we had on the old website where everything's on the SAU website, and it got very muddy very quick. And I didn't know, like, okay, like I'm an elementary school student, family, is this relevant to me? But it would be very easy to place like a family ID link in here in the parents and students tab. And just do things like that, where if things are buried too much, finding a way to make it more front facing when it comes to your student services. I tried to build all these out differently because before on our old website, you'd click student services and then all this stuff was on one page. It was just separated by a big line. So at least you get the delineation. All right, I gotta squint a little bit to see the screen way over there. But yeah, so you gotta go department, human resources, or sorry, student services, homeschool, and then you have the form. I'd be happy to talk with you
I
or
don't know what
whoever.
the better option is, I just don't know that that's where people would go looking for it.
I mean, I think it's also in forms. I could be wrong. Maybe I was told to not, yeah. And we are working on this, on pages like this too. We're going through a process right now. We can thank Ruben's assistant, Leslie. We have a system called Frevo, or PIFTech, where you'll notice that a lot of our forms, this speaks to that registration process in a certain regard, but a lot of our forms now are digital. Is the homeschool form? Yeah, so you click in. And you can immediately just fill these things out and then submit it, and it goes through a clean process of like all the different people that have to process it. Eventually, the final form gets cataloged in DocStar, which is a storage service through Amazon Web Services that we have. So that just creates a greater level of accountability on that end to have information processed and logged accordingly. So as we go through these different forms on both the family side and the staff side, we're pulling certain things off, adding new things on. You know, some of these are very specific, like your prom guest form, but the goal is to make things as easily fillable as possible.
Going back to calendars, is there an easy way to share specific? So years ago, and I still have it, I added the SAU 47 calendar to my Google calendars and the RMS calendar. So I can just click on it and see everything on the live RMS calendar or the live SAU 47. If there's an easy way to share that for Apple and Google, then you could do that for sports or whatnot. Okay, here's, and as things change, you're gonna get it updated automatically on your calendar.
I don't have a specific step-by-step direction for you. But these options up in here do give you the ability to do things like pull out the RSS feed. You can subscribe to alerts, which I haven't tested out personally, but should tell you anytime a new entry drops. You can export. I think that might just be for specific events. Yeah.
So I guess that's
CSV
part
style.
my question, part of my question, is the live calendar still broken up where you can just download the calendar you want?
Yes, so
Okay.
each one of these calendars, you know, the red one for RMS, the blue one for JGS, orange for that. And then the middle high school, and then the maroony one for the SAU. Those are all independent Google calendars. They
Okay,
exist
perfect.
already in Google. I update the district one, secretary or clerical aide at each school updates their own. So you should be able to subscribe to any of these individuals. If you're on the SAU website, you can see that you get all of them. But if you go to an individual school. You'll notice that all the other entries are gone. So it's specific to the school. That's also something that will go live when we get the expanded directory up. Is you'll get a directory that's specific to your school and SAU staff on the individual school website. And then you'll get everybody on the SAU list. And that's part of the reason why we have to make sure we have that granular level data that I'm talking about, is so that you can, it will automatically trigger based on the schools that somebody works at, or like say, I know, you know, there's a shared elementary assistant principal. She would show up on every list but the middle high school list. If you have a somebody in student services that works with a certain number of schools, they would appear on all of the schools that they work for. So by having this system where they're all different websites, but they're interconnected by the same platform, you get that individualization by just dumping information into their system. But that does bring up a good point in that you, I can work on like a resource guide that says like, oh, you wanna.
Well, I was just thinking for like, if someone's starting a sport, if the coach has their own, they can send it, have it on the live, but then also, here you go, here's that, instead of each individual sports team using their own app, calendars, everything else.
I mean,
Just
this-
send the link to the Google Calendar for
This-
that sport.
Yeah, the sports part is a little bit more complex just because we have so much information on a website that I don't manage.
Yeah.
It is in the communication plan to talk about that end of it and whether like to what level we want to integrate. So I think the website that we have right now is either given to us or run by the NHIAA. And then our activities director actually uploads information into that website. So I don't know to what level that works with or integrates with Google.
True.
I can investigate that on that end. Like I said, I haven't put it into this calendar just because, as you can see, like, and it depends on your screen size, but this even being a larger screen, I'm kind of maxing out at 3 events. And you can obviously go from monthly to weekly, and that gives you more of a ability to see, but or you can separate it by monthly list. And then you just get purely events, but. So there could definitely be ways that we could try to have those calendars more accessible.
Oh, the only other thing I was thinking, just thinking about that people were talking on Facebook that they couldn't find was all of the Otis stuff. Like there, we have the web just pushing parents, so sign into Otis, but when you go to the parents tab, it's still just web to school. And you have to actually search for Otis or find the link in Facebook to where it originally was.
Where are they putting the videos to? So they've done videos and they've done training. Are they uploading those to this website?
Right now, no. So I honestly don't think they're on the website right now. Obviously, quick solution would be for me to get that information. So I don't recall that I've created any sort of Otis page. So I think the only spot that I have it is this right here, which is a news story. So that gives you at least the video, the single video. But yeah, we could easily create a resource section for Otis. I can reach out to the middle high school on that. Part of that, like I said, is the getting more management privileges to other people, because once we have that enabled, then I don't necessarily have to ask for it, or if I don't know about something or it's not on my mind, it doesn't get dropped. We would be able to have people at the middle high school that would just be like, oh, we got new Otis resources. Oh, Alma's live, or we're doing something with that. Something I gotta also get more information on is putting more of like the tutor.com resources on the website. Just because we have all these things that we're promoting, but they aren't on the website because I'm thinking more, how can I promote this? And then sometimes that putting it on the website in a like landing page spot doesn't always come through. So
Even just linking the actual tutorial video, if you can. I couldn't find it on our YouTube. I had to go to the Facebook for it.
yeah, they didn't give me that.
Oh, because it's not you. I didn't realize it wasn't a district run.
Yeah, no, that one was a district run, and they had it on their own server. So unfortunately, that's not one that I have up on the website. Anything that I run obviously goes on there. Anything that they give me the raw video file for,
Right.
I can edit and upload. But for something like that where they see it's like otis.wistia.com, like that's not, I had asked, it's not even pulling up right now, so that went away. Maybe I have to look into that.
Also, there's just a couple of days left to get your yearbook for a reduced fee if you haven't ordered.
I'll have to ask my kids if they forget.
So I think that obviously that would be a big goal for me personally, is just having those additional eyes and ability to upload things on the website, because obviously like website management is not my only, task on a given day. So it's like, there are some things that I'd love to upload, and then they get pushed down the list, or they get, dropped. Sometimes it's as simple as that link is no longer working. So I got to investigate that and see whether or not there's an error on my end, or if it's been somehow deleted. So that eventually down the line, once we get those, login credentials and things like that, we can have, like I had a conversation last year with Kim Baker, the guidance director, and she's like, we've been having a lot of conversations about how it would be great to completely update and revamp our counseling section. How can we work on that? I'm like, well, right now the plan is that you guys meet with me, say what you want. We can either plan it out live in a meeting, or you can give me directions. I can mock something up. Or if we had this feature enabled, it could be that you guys could work together on your own time, come up with something, and then it would just have to be run by me before it goes live. And then that gives more of that active, personal, hey, we've got this cool event coming up, we want to promote it type of thing.
Definitely think giving department heads access to their specific page makes a lot of sense, because I know when I used to work at RMS in the library, Nicole would update hers quite a bit.
Well, in some cases, like the library, they have their own existing Google websites, I believe. Example, like I think, yeah, here's one where like extending learning opportunities, this actually just sends you to a website that's managed by, I believe, Dana Jackson. So we do have some examples already of being able to do that. It would probably be nice eventually to pull everything into the same system, just so that it's got all that similar branding on that end. And obviously, we can pull people in, have training, make sure it all looks the same and nice, but they're still able to actively update in one way or another. So that's just an example of where we have an active updating But some of these more static things like activities and clubs, no, I updated this today. But this is all information that gets sent to me, and then I have to find the time to actually upload it and change it.
They're going to make this a nicer format. Animation, Mondays, open to locate, it's double space. It's not very pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, I mean, we can have conversations around that. It's essentially just the style guide that we had for the website, like this was all kind of default, like when it comes to certain things. When it comes to font sizes, what font we're using, how the spacing is. If we want to make changes, it would be, I believe we can put it in a way that it would change it across the website instead of having to actively manage every little component. If we wanted to talk about that further at some point, I'd be happy to look at how we could make that look different, better, more appeasing. Any other thoughts, ideas about the website or other communication topics? Okay. So the last thing I wanted to do before we left, again, like I said, websites as a topic came about from the prior iteration of the committee. I think that would be a good place to start. Rather than me kind of planning everything out and saying this is what I think would be great, I would love to hear from you guys in terms of different presentations you'd like to hear about, things you'd like to have discussions around. Again, the goal is to meet quarterly. We'd have 4 meetings throughout the year, ideally spaced, I guess every 3 or so months apart. I guess the other conversation would be meetings and rough, if we wanted to kind of iron out some rough meeting times. I think the biggest thing I'd want to know is, so we're meeting 4 times a year. Does that include a meeting during the summer when school's out, or are we trying to meet 4 times during the school year? So I guess if anybody has any thoughts about either future topics or meeting dates / construction.
I definitely think meeting not during the summer is preferable because trying to go around everybody's vacation is gonna be a lot harder.
I agree with that.
Not that I take vacation in summer, but
Well, I know that when it
Short
comes,
window anyway. It's, maybe we meet right before summer and then reconvene in the fall when we have to.
when everybody's looked at the website, because they've started school and can tell us all of the issues they have with the website.
okay, so that seems pretty unanimous that we don't want to meet during the summer, so we'll just try to evenly space out 4 meetings. I guess at
First,
this
second,
point,
third, fourth quarter.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we'll try to do on each school quarter. I guess when obviously we met a little bit later at this point. Are we in quarter? What quarter are we in? Right now?
Quarter 1, November 4th is even 1.
Okay, so we're still within the first quarter.
So the end of each quarter.
Maybe end of the quarter seems appropriate.
Yeah, so we'll do
Well,
that.
that's Next Friday, right? November 4th. November is next week, so
It's really at the end.
yeah, I think we are at the end of the quarter.
And obviously we can expedite a little bit. I know that we met a little later than I probably would have hoped, but we had to actually solidify that we had a committee of people that were meeting. And then I guess future topics. Do we have anything that people really want to talk about, hear about? I'm happy to present. I'm happy to just have open discussions. Obviously people can present that are not me. What do we want to hear about?
I definitely think a presentation or a little bit more on the app, if we're going to try and get people to download the app more. And just maybe update on how many people download it if we send out. Like, did that help reminding people we have an app?
So you saying that the goal would be to have start promoting it more now, and then maybe by the next meeting, having a report on, did we actually get an influx of people? How's the traffic?
Yeah, I definitely think promoting it now when it's kind of the slow time for most people is the best time for them to actually get not information and download it.
Well, and if we start promoting it now, that gives them time to start using it.
And
And
telling
then
us
if we
any
start hearing
issue.
more questions or they're wanting to see other things on the app, we can have those discussions the next time we meet. Cause I know I'll be downloading the app when I get home.
I would say it's hard to get to the school board stuff. I could not get at the last school board meeting, and apparently I'm like, usually close to the school board meeting online. However, I couldn't find the information on the app. I had to log into it in order to get the Zoom and not to get it to all work. So something was.
Was it just
Yeah.
not allowing you to progress?
Yep, it wouldn't.
Was it the Zoom information you couldn't get or
Yeah, it
the
wouldn't let me
actual
open the agenda.
agendas?
Which we can look into later, but it wouldn't let me open the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I know that
I will say that that is also something that I struggle with, and again, I'm one of the few people who's on all the time, but it's hard to dig down and get all the information to get to the school board meeting, and then I have to type in the Zoom information each time. Is there another way that if you put it up and said that here's our school board meeting and here's the link? Or is there a reason that you have to type in a meeting ID and password?
That comes from Zoom, right? When
Yeah, I
you
mean,
s- when
the-
you create the meeting, it resets your link and your meeting IDs and all of that information. Do you have the Zoom app on your phone?
Yeah, but it's not a link.
I don't have a link on the PDF that actively can be clicked on. I just have
Oh,
the
okay.
user ID
That
and
makes
the
sense.
passcode.
So you have to go to the
Yeah,
agenda,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to find them, then you have to write it down somewhere
Mhm.
or, and then open your Zoom.
Okay, because it's not an active
It's
link.
not
That
active.
makes sense. Okay.
yeah,
Could that be potentially a button on here, on the app? To have a school board Zoom link, you know what I mean? Like just.
I mean, the biggest reason why I haven't done it that way is
Yeah.
more or less just, I'd have to update it every single time.
Yeah,
So that would just be me. I would hate to. I did a lot of work to consolidate where we were putting the information so that I
Mm.
would forget to upload it somewhere and have something be outdated. You know, if somebody's like, oh, I'm looking for this, and it's like, oh, this isn't updated. Are we not meeting tonight? I could work on. I mean, I could put a link on the PDF where if you clicked on the PDF, you'd pop a link and it would go
I think
through.
you might get more people. Maybe not. It'd be easier for me.
I think the clickable links on the PDF work well when I'm looking at the agenda
Yeah.
anyways to just, so I would
So if
imagine
you
it's
look
you.
at other things and found
Yeah.
applicable, people might participate more.
That would be
It's
the
not-
easiest way to do it, because I have to generate a new agenda every time I create the agenda. I have the link there. I didn't do it just because I didn't think to do it. Nobody said anything, so.
Apparently I want it.
But now it's getting done.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't-
like I said,
Sometimes I don't have any
Anything-
papers, write down the number and it's really good.
no, I mean, I said at the beginning of the meeting that one of my biggest struggles was feeling like there were things that needed to be fixed or made better, but not actually having a direct
Yeah, if they
dialogue
were
about
telling-
yeah.
what needs to be fixed. So
You can't
I'd
fix
rather
things you
have
don't
these
know are-
meetings. And just have people say this, we want this, we want this, we want this, and just be able to work on it instead of having it swirl on Facebook.
I think another issue too, that for me, looking at you as a single point of failure,
Mm.
everything flows through you. So if you can start giving staff and things more autonomy to be able to add more information into different websites, I think that's gonna free up some of your time and you don't have to think about all of these thousands of things that you have to upload and put
Yeah.
here and put here and there and there. So being able to condense what you need to focus on and then give people some freedom to be able to do their own creative things online.
Well, like I said, that'll be a good system when we get it in place, because then it makes me the approver or the oversight rather than the.
To do
Either
it.
I have to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I want this information, can you please give it to me? Or, oh, hey, I've given you this, 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 and this. Like sometimes it's like. I'll get 4 things from the high school, I'll get 4 things from RMS, I'll get 4 things from JGS, and it's like, we all want this posted right now. It's like, okay, well, how do I?
How do you
all that.
prioritize that? Right.
Um,
Something we talked about in the spring, at the end of the communication, the previous communication, we decided we were going to create a new communication committee and start over, was having a chairperson. They didn't have to be you. Then someone else on the committee could be the chair to set up the meetings, to gather information, to facilitate, so it doesn't all have to fall on you. So that's something we wanted to talk about, or did you guys already talk about that?
We did a little bit.
We did.
He said there was a few other people that didn't make it tonight, so we have our lovely minute keeper. But to
Okay,
pick,
For today, right?
to
Yeah.
pick a chair, wait until everyone is together.
Way better than picking somebody who wasn't here. Sounds really great. I was gonna come in.
Why didn't we think of that?
I know.
Actually, on second thought, who's not here?
Who else is not here?
Who brought it up? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's a 9-person committee. I'm a member of the committee. It's Jen, it's myself, it's John McCarthy, who also represents the school board. It's Megan, the middle high school librarian. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have an open seat for JGS staff. Susan, the principal, has agreed to try to step in until they have somebody that's taken that role, but we don't have anybody actively in that position right now, so.
And interact with tonight as well.
Yeah.
That's why-
John wasn't able to make it because there was an Interact meeting.
Oh, yeah. That was a big presentation.
So I think the goal would be to have people think about who might want to step up and be a chair. Go from there. Cause yeah, it would be a lot easier if I was just in charge of making presentations and talking when things like this come up rather than like all the nuts and bolts, so.
You said you nominate Megan. as chair?
Yeah, I think that's what we said.
That's what I heard.
I second that note.
All in favor? It's passed unanimous.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a majority here, so we can tell her for sure.
I don't feel like I should be the one to tell them.
All right, any other questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts? We do have, it seems like, one agenda item for the next meeting. Is there anything else that we'd want to hear about, whether it be a larger item, smaller item?
So I think you talked probably before I was here on the system of record. Was that ever? checked?
Yeah, that was
As a key component of making sure that we can start to differentiate who does what and so forth.
yeah, the discussion was about the system of record and how there are a lot of things that should be in place that aren't because we need that. And that the discussions are happening right now as to what the appropriate, spot would be for that information.
Something
There's some systems that are being reviewed.
Something I think would be worthwhile is having the building principals come talk to us about how they're sending out information. So one of the key components of the original committee was consistent communication from the buildings. And all of the buildings are doing very different things.
But a lot more.
A lot.
Oh,
more.
yeah.
That time, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they came and talked to us about what they're doing in their processes and how they feel it's working. And then maybe some carryover into some other things that we could help support or vice versa.
Yeah, that can certainly be, I can reach out to the principals on that. I guess to that end, one thing that I've been doing, I alluded to it earlier in the meeting, but I have reinstated monthly meetings with each of the principals. And part of that initiative just comes from checking in with them, seeing if there are things that they need help with, if resources, etc. Trying to get everybody on the same page so that things are cohesive, because there are certain schools that are doing more than others, or more consistently than others. So it's just trying to make sure that even though we have each of the schools functioning, in a way that makes sense for those individual communities, also making sure that there's kind of like a minimum standard of how we're doing things. And there's already been a couple of conversations tonight about how there might be some minor differences, like for example, using web to school to send out emails. So, someone like Ruben has been selecting, the primary, secondary, and other guardians so that everybody gets it, but not all schools are doing that. Some are And I've heard that the reason for not doing that is that in some cases, perhaps a secondary guardian might have in their file, like, do not contact this person for whatever reason. So some schools have not gone into those additional levels. So whereas some families might receive everything from Ruben, both parents, when it comes to schools communicating, maybe only one of the parents receives it and they have to communicate together to say, oh, hey, did you get this information? Oh, you didn't, let me send it to you or talk to you about it. So that's one quick, easy way to look at it, but system of record again becomes a way to make that more consistent.
And we talked about, I'm sure, Alma and that move from web to school within the next year.
Yeah, that was brought up, not in any big meaningful way, but just to say that we were moving and that there's a lot of moving parts to better solidify communication on that back end so that we can move forward more efficiently.
So I would think that some of those just brief updates on where we are with implementation process and so forth. Because all those systems are going to be completely different communication systems, hopefully better.
Are they all? Is the goal to roll them all out at the same time simultaneously, or are they rolling out separately?
Well, a system of record would be something that would be behind the scenes. So. it would be something that this- Yes, to make sure that the information is correct. But I've been involved in these internal meetings and I've been educated. I believe it's for the purpose of making sure that our systems are all updated properly.
Yeah, I mean, so they are all progressing. They're not necessarily gonna be all rolled out at the same time because Alma obviously will be kind of taking place of web to school. So that has a lot of additional applications that speak outside of communication. When it comes to trying to get that staff system of record in place, we're having conversations right now about what platform it needs to be in. Like we have existing things like Frontline. We're having conversations with Alma to see if it might fit there. We have iVision to the business office and whether or not that can be changed a little bit to be more accommodating from a communication perspective. So that's going to ultimately depend on just vetting everything that we have and see, is there a good option in-house already that we don't have to go get another software or something like that. When it comes to Alma, is the target on that for next school year or?
Yeah, so right now, so Alma's an SIS, which is a student information system. Different than Otis, which is a learning management system. They do have some crossover and functionality, both are pretty strong in certain areas around grading practices, but the rollout, hopefully by certainly like fall, but by July, fun to have it go live by. But the schedule going up down the road here is the idea. So prior to like what we tried to do this year, they were ready to roll in May and create the schedules, but what was going to handle what was going on. And so
And I think the role of this committee is pivotal, and as we're getting there, we're living in these trenches of talking about all and doing, and then we bring it to you and you tell us, that doesn't make any sense to me, or it's time to tell people, this is what we should tell people. And so there's a very much pivotal role here in telling us, how do we share this? Those updates, if this is where we're at, does anybody need to know this? And when?
Well, and when it comes to the school messenger stuff that we've talked about today, like and rolling out some of these other website features and things like that, we can't roll anything out until the system of record issue is solved and completely put into place. And then once that's put into place, we can reach back out to School Messenger, ask how we appropriately connect the information we've gathered to their system so that we can make all this stuff live. And then there would be probably a rollout. Some things are easier, like the staff directory, that's once it's feeding in appropriately, we can just make it go live. Something like getting different departments to run their own website pages. Obviously there's a lot of training that goes into play with that. And for some people, I think it's personally an easy system. but not everybody's gonna feel that way. Some people have more or less technology experience than others. And I could give most people probably this 30-minute and I think 1 hour training modules where they just run you through like how to do it. And I could probably show them that and it's like, oh, boom, it's done. I know how to do it. Other people I might have to actually take time to sit with, show them the nuts and bolts, run through things with that. And then we also have to create all the accounts for people, that's passwords, that's credentials, and things like that. So it's going to be more tiered. It's all happening at the same time, but it all based on how it kind of works back and forth together. It'll come at different points. So it seems like we have a couple topics for the next meeting. It seems like we have a generic timeline for when we should meet. I guess for now, I'll work on helping to set up the next meeting unless somebody, graciously steps forward and volunteers to do that. But, it'll probably just be a doodle poll. Just, hey, here's a set of nights over the next week or over a couple week period. What ones make the most sense for you? And hopefully next time we'll have closer to a full committee. And then we could, really kind of get moving from there. Obviously, if you guys want to meet more than quarterly, that's within you guys' ability and desire. But quarterly was the charge, so if that's what you guys want, that's great for me. That's all I had. Anything else from anybody else?
No, nothing for me.
All right, I guess we're adjourned as of 7:48.